What's going on, my soul family? Welcome back to another episode of the Awake with Jake show. On today's episode, I got a juicy one for you: how to raise conscious masculine men. So, whether you're a parent or want to be a parent someday or never want to be a parent, I'm going to be talking a lot about masculine and feminine dynamics in this podcast, so it will be very helpful for you to listen. Now, throughout this episode, I'm going to be sharing a lot of vulnerability and how I was raised, which I would say I was exposed to a lot of wounded masculine energy growing up, and I didn't really learn the art of healthy masculinity. I think it's so important that we reinstate healthy masculine and feminine energies within all humans. So, one of my focuses in the work that I do with the polarity and the intimacy and the masculine and feminine energies is teaching the embodiment of your natural core energy and having a relationship, a healthy relationship with both of your energies. Now, a lot of people are imbalanced because they're not honoring their natural core essence. Now, before I get into all of this, I want to share with you that speaking of intimacy and core energies and masculine and feminine dynamics, my next live in-person workshop this January in Texas, I am bringing in my queen Melissa to facilitate this with me. This is going to be 3 days of deep and profound transformational work. We already have over 100 men and women signed up from around the world to come together to heal core energetic wounds, to go deeper within yourself, to let go of those old limiting beliefs, to bridge the gap of masculine and feminine energies, to learn sexual polarity and the keys to conscious intimacy. Please, if you are interested in this, do not wait because tickets are selling out quickly. Go to jakewoodard.com/awake to register today and grab your ticket. Once again, that link is jakewoodard.com/awake to register today and come do some in-person with me in person. This is the only live event that I have scheduled for 2022, and I really want you to be a part of this. So let's get right into the episode today. The first thing that I have for you to encourage in a young man or a boy or a child is decision making. Making decisions, not fear-based decisions. We're taught a lot of fear in this matrix, to be afraid and to be kind of wishy-washy. Clear decision making. Make a decision and commit to it. And if you make a mistake when you make that decision, that's okay. Teach these boys that it's okay to make mistakes, to learn from the mistakes that you make. When you make a decision and you commit to it, and you make a mistake in that process, it's okay because you're going to learn and grow from that process. Decision making within masculinity, making clear decisions, having clear direction is huge. So if you're working with a boy or a younger man, encourage him to make clear decisions, to not be afraid when he makes a decision. The second thing that I have here is problem solving. One of the ways that the masculine energy becomes stronger is through solving problems within their own lives. Now, a lot of times what happens is, I remember when I was a boy, whenever I would experience something that was a struggle around my father, he would just take it out of my hands. Say if we were working construction together, which we did a lot of, he would take it out of my hands and be very impatient with me and just do it for me. And it didn't encourage me to logically think, practically think, to use my analytical brain in that moment to solve that problem. So it kind of stripped away me from that experience of gaining the ability to trust myself to solve problems. Now, a lot of men don't have trust within their ability to solve problems. A lot of men don't have clear direction with their ability to make decisions and lead. So they're not really anchored and rooted in that strong masculine energy because of this. So they're kind of wishy-washy. This creates this flighty type man who's not really certain of himself. And this insecure man is a very dangerous man to our society, I believe. Because when a man is insecure, he will often act very loud to be seen, to be validated. And this type of macho jerk energy is very, very toxic to the people that he exposes himself to. So, the third thing that I have here is leadership, learning to be a conscious leader. There's a big difference between being a macho jerk and controlling and dominating other people versus consciously leading. A conscious leader has clear direction. He's able to problem solve and make decisions. A macho jerk tries to control and force his way through life. He's like Mr. Ramrod, where he's constantly bulldozing through the flower garden. So if you notice your boy or a young man that you're working with having fear around his ability to lead, encourage him to lead and make decisions. A masculine man who can lead and make decisions feels so much more aligned within himself. I can't say this enough. Leadership, direction, and clarity is so important for the development and the embodiment of healthy masculine energy. Now, there's also a lot to be said around embodying and understanding your emotional world as well, because it's very hard to be a conscious leader if you're not compassionate. If a man doesn't feel and he is numb to his emotions, then he cannot be a conscious leader. Which brings me into another point that I have here. Number 4 is to process how they feel and not be hyper reactive and impulsive. So let me say this again. In order for a man to have clear direction, and he's not always going to have clear direction, this is just encouraging clear direction. In order for a man to be able to make decisions and lead with compassion and consciously, he has to be able to feel deeply. In order for that to happen, if he's filled with stuff, anger, sadness, rage, he's going to be very hyper reactive and impulsive because he's emotionally imbalanced. So all of that stuff inside of him, when it's brought up, it's like a sore spot. And as soon as it's touched, he's going to flip out. And that's how I was for a lot of my life. I was raised in a very unsafe environment that lodged a lot of pain and trauma in my body. So it was like having a sore spot that when someone would come along and touch it, I would just blow up. I would react in a very violent manner. And I wanted to fight and dominate the person that I was arguing with or not aligning with in that moment. So because of this toxic energy that was stored inside my body, I was very impulsive and reactive. And when a man is impulsive and reactive and doesn't process how he feels, he often goes through life very short fused and blowing up on people because internally his world is so chaotic, which he's really actually carrying a lot of wounded feminine energy. So teach him how to sit with himself before he quickly, impulsively reacts and responds in a harmful way. Teach our men, teach our boys to not be impulsive, to not impulsively do things, but instead to feel into it, to observe the energy moving through their body, to process it, and then respond from that place. Even if you just teach him to take a deep breath, breathe in and out, and now respond. How do you feel now? Because even that space that's created when you just breathe a little bit is going to give you more space to consciously respond. The key with the masculine development and reinstating healthy masculinity is to be present with your emotions. Because if you can be present with your emotions and observe your emotions and not control or repress your emotions, then you can be present with the feminine. If he chooses to be with a woman in his life and he wants to be in that container with a woman, he has to first integrate with his emotions. Because a man who's not integrated with his emotions will always be very impulsive and reactive to a woman. He will either try to control and repress her emotions because his emotional world is chaotic, or he will abandon her when she's emotional in her emotions. And there has been so much shame around women's emotions They're too much. They're too crazy. They're too sensitive. And they've really been shunned and repressed for having expression. So a lot of women feel very afraid to healthily express their feminine essence, which has created a lot of stagnant, stuck, stale energy within women because they're very rigid, intense, and angular, not allowing the full expression of her feminine life force energy to flow through her body. So for the women listening right now, if you're raising boys, if you're raising young men, being a healthy embodiment yourself is so key. Being an embodied woman, being connected to your heart and your intuition, and being that grounded sage wisdom is so powerful for a man to experience that. And I think a lot of women that I've worked with over the years doubt their ability to be that strong embodied woman, to be that loving, safe space, to not overly mother him and hover over him, but let him make decisions and lead and problem solve and encourage those things. That is really powerful for a mother to gift that to her son, to encourage the development of his healthy masculinity. Now, the next thing I have here, number 5, is presence. Teaching a young man, which is something that I wish I learned early on in life, but I probably would have really fought against this one. But over time, anything can be practiced, is presence. So, for example, teaching a young man to meditate, a boy to meditate, to be present with himself, to just sit there and breathe, even if it was for 5 minutes a day. Just encourage him to be present. Encourage him to make good eye contact, to look into the left eye, which is the receiving eye. The left side of your body is the receiving, the feminine essence of your body. The right side is the masculine, the giving. So the left eye, the receiving eye, make good eye contact, to listen to people when they're talking. To really just be present with people is such a safe feeling. When you're present with somebody and you really actually genuinely care and are interested about what they're saying, it creates an environment for growth. So deep presence of the masculine. Imagine teaching a young boy to become like an oak tree. An oak tree is grounded and present and observant. It observes and feels the wind, the feminine winds that blows through the branches. And the oak tree doesn't try to control or repress the feminine essence. Instead, it holds the feminine winds as she blows through and dances through him. And there's a little bit of flex in the oak tree, so he doesn't break. Now, a lot of men are very rigid and stoic, right? They don't want to move or bend at all. But that's why they break when the feminine emotions comes through them, whether it's their own or a woman, or just the feminine essence in general. They snap because emotionally they're weak. They're brittle. Their ego is fragile. And when a man has a fragile ego, he's a danger to our society. So we have to purify that toxic, wounded, masculine bullshit, which is really the wounded emotions within men. Because that's why their egos are fragile, because they've been traumatized and put down their entire life to never be enough, to never be able to feel satisfied, because no matter what they accomplish or achieve, they're not going to feel quote unquote good enough by this matrix. This matrix is designed to make you feel like no matter what you do is never good enough. That's why you're constantly targeted with the next best thing to make you feel less than. You go on social media, you're constantly comparing yourself to other people to make you feel inferior. So we're constantly seeking external validation. And men especially have to learn to feel good within themselves, to not be so focused on the external achievements, on the external accomplishments, on the external fame and power and success, because all that is temporary bullshit. It's temporary bullshit that your ego just wants to crave in that moment. So teach him the value of committing to his mission to serve, to mission to help, and to not seek validation from your mission. To do it because you want to do it, to give your gift, to give your masculine gift to the world because you want to give that gift. To not be such a consumer and always consuming all the time, because receiving and consuming is actually a feminine trait. So teach your young boy to be a producer of this world, to produce, to give back, to be of service, to help other people in need while continuing to do his inner work, to get free of any stuff that he's holding on to. And we all come into this life with a karmic package, a karmic predicament, right? So he has stuff that he's going to work through. He has challenges that he's going to face, and he has to learn to navigate those challenges. And the masculine operates amazing and beautifully in that challenging environment. He grows through challenge. So when his challenges are stripped away from him and he's babied and coddled too much, then he never learns the value of what it's like to work through challenges. That's why I was saying early on, encourage problem solving, encourage decision making, encourage leadership, encourage having clear direction, encourage giving back and being of service, encourage sitting with your emotions and not being so reactive and impulsive. Because when you are reactive and impulsive, you will never feel balanced within yourself. That's why learning to sit with yourself and breathing. Because if he can't feel his emotions deeply, how can he relate to the feminine? How can he relate to a woman? So teach him to feel compassion. Teach him to feel his love that flows through him. Teach him to feel that real, true inner freedom of what it feels like to be free. The next thing I have here, number 6, if my numbers are correct. By the way, how are you doing today? How are you really doing? Not this BS that we always just spit out like, oh, I'm doing okay. I'm doing fine. How are you really doing? How are you feeling in this moment? Please send me a message, leave a comment wherever you're watching or listening to this on. I'd love to know. The next thing I have here, number 6, boundaries. A man who is too passive, quote unquote, too nice, too soft, who doesn't have boundaries and will not set boundaries, maybe in the container of a relationship with a woman or in his life, will never really be respected by a woman. A woman wants to see a man that has healthy boundaries. And this is something that has been extremely hard for me to do, to set conscious boundaries. And I've really embodied this in my relationship with Melissa. So I want to talk a little bit about boundaries. A boundary, a healthy boundary, teaches someone what you will and will not accept. Most people, most humans, men and women around the world, are afraid to set boundaries. And I want to tell you a little story about this. Just a really brief story about something that happened a while back with Melissa and I. We were experiencing some turbulence in our relationship, and this is a vulnerable share. Melissa was very focused on her business, and she had become so focused on the development of her business that she lost sight of our relationship. And I found the courage within myself to approach her and share with her how I was feeling hurt. And I said to her, baby, I love you. And I always try to lead with a positive thing when I'm setting a boundary with somebody. Baby, I love you. I want to express to you that I'm feeling hurt in our relationship right now because I feel like you're neglecting me and you're not seeing me anymore. And that's all I said. And she said, I am so sorry. I didn't even realize I was doing that. I will do my best to work on my business and also see you in this relationship. And she did. She was willing to make that adjustment. My boundary in that moment was I wasn't feeling seen. I was feeling neglected. And that's very hurtful to anyone, to feel neglected in your relationship. So if you're unwilling to set a boundary within your relationship or in life, maybe it's a boss that's being very dominating towards you, or a coworker or a friend, or a family member, because family members are really good at encroaching on your fucking boundaries. And you're like, motherfucker, get the fuck away from me. But don't let yourself get to that point. I have to set boundaries with my dad all the time. Dad, you're being invasive right now. Please give me some space. I've said that to my dad multiple times. And over the years, he's learned my boundaries. He's learned what I will and will not accept. Okay. So please exercise your boundaries. And once again, if you're raising young boys, encourage teaching healthy boundaries. But remember, you can only teach other people what you're embodying yourself. Remember, at a true level. You can share it from a mind level, but what you're embodying yourself, you teach a lot better. It's much easier because there's a vibrational resonance within your body that is then translated to the person that you are sharing that with, okay? So the last one that I have here, which is the reason why I kept this for the last one, help them to understand women better and respect them, okay? Teach your young boy, teach young boys, teach young men that being a playboy, sleeping with a bunch of women and just being almost like toxic towards women, being a player towards women is not healthy. It's not conscious. You're just spewing your energy all over the place. And you're exhausting your vital life force energy. You're scattering your energy when you do that. Now, if this is something you desire to do as a man and you want to go sleep with a bunch of women, do your thing. I'm not going to judge you for it. But I'm telling you right now from personal experience of going through all of that, I'm going to tell you that it's never fulfilling. It's not fulfilling. So teach men the value of women. Teach them to respect and honor women with healthy boundaries. That doesn't mean you allow a woman to project on you and to treat you poorly and abuse you, because as a strong masculine man, which he is becoming, and I know that the women listen to this podcast right now who are raising young men and the men raising young men know that he is becoming strong masculine man. Of course, if that's his natural core energy, if he desires to be strong masculine. And not all men have masculine cores, and that's fine too. But specifically right now, what I'm speaking to is the development of masculinity within men as a masculine core man. And when he respects and honors the feminine, he respects and honors the entire world because the earth is feminine. He will respect nature. He will be of service and deep devotion to our world, but also he will also understand the value of commitment. Because a feminine woman's yearning is to really feel committed to and claimed by the masculine. And when I say claimed, this is a act of devotion, of devotional commitment. The masculine says, I am committed to you. I'm committed to this container of the relationship, to show up every single day as the most conscious, loving version of myself, to work on myself. So when the masculine consciously claims the feminine, it's a form of commitment. It's a form of devotion. It's that, hell yes, she's mine kind of commitment, kind of claimed. Not this, I own her kind of bullshit. Claimed is a sacred act of devotion. So teach him the value of commitment. Teach him the value of treating women with respect and not objectifying them. And believe me, in this swipe right, swipe left, pornography addicted culture, we often devalue the feminine essence. And of course, when a woman is respectful of herself, she will not tolerate a man who doesn't respect her. And that's really a whole nother podcast I could do on this one. Whew. So, as a quick little recap here. Number 1, decision making. Number 2, problem solving. Number 3, leadership. Number 4, presence. Number 5, boundaries. Number 6, process how they feel and not be hyper reactive or impulsive. Number 7, help them understand and respect women more. Now listen, if you want to experience some in-person work with me and my queen, Melissa, this is going to be the most badass healing transformational event you've ever attended, okay? Right now, you can still get tickets while they're still available by going to jakewoodard.com/awake. It's this January in Texas at this beautiful world-class hotel called the Gaylord Texan. and it is beautiful there. And quick little story about that. About 5 or 6 years ago, when I was living in Texas, I remember visiting this place with one of my good buddies, and he said, "Wow, how amazing would it be to do a live event here?" And it's actually on video of us talking about this at this resort. And I said, "This place is truly magical. I would love to do an event here one day." And 5 or 6 years later, it is now manifested and it's now coming to life. So I want you to be a part of this experience, to do whatever it takes to make it to this event in person. You get there and I can help you. Once again, that's jakewoodard.com/awake to register and grab your tickets today. I love you so much. I want to know how this episode impacted you. Send me a direct message on Instagram. My Instagram's _JakeWoodard. Leave me a comment, leave me a review. Just let me know if you found resonance in this episode. I love you so freaking much. I hope you have the best day ever. And as always, stay open, stay loving, and stay connected to that beautiful source within you.